Hello, everyone. Welcome to another talk here. We're going to talk about triads, and I was going over triads with a student of mine, and I believe they found this pretty helpful. So I thought we'd might talk a little bit about um, triad shapes and sort of like strings of notes, or that give you a triad across the guitar. And but before we start, maybe I'll play a little bit, um, and then we'll get into all that. So let's start out by playing a little bit of "Fly Me to the Moon." I haven't really done anything new with the backing track, but we'll do a little bit of playing to play us on um, as we go here. All right, so getting on into the triads and talking about these shapes. So we've talked a little bit in the past about taking different shapes of the scales and uh, well, let's say triads and um, different, say, note groupings, and kind of creating shapes or creating a limitation that could sort of creates a specific shape. So one of the challenges learning guitar is just kind of working with um, where all these notes are, right, and finding things around the neck. So if you're dealing with kind of a lot of information, it can be pretty pretty daunting task to try to make sense of all these patterns. So what we can do is create a limitation. So let's say on with these triads, let's say we say, well, let's play one note per string, and just kind of see where that leads us. All right, so I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit so I can dig in some more on it. So let's say we have a C major triad. Okay, so we can create kind of a string of tones here and just limit ourselves, say, okay, well, a note of the triad per string, and then we can kind of develop this this line of notes. And then we can combine them, make chords out of them, or we could do the harmonic pairs like we did earlier or yesterday. And but we can also play, arpeggios of 4 attacks, or maybe just 3, or go back and forth on them. So that's a major triad, and that's just kind of a group of notes there. So let's say we have, we start on the E this time on string 6, fret 12. So then we can look through and create this whole line of notes. Okay, and then we can start on G. Okay, we can also play that in the open position, and just kind of see how those fit. And once you have kind of the major triad, then you'll have a good starting point for the minor triad, and all of that. So let's see if I haven't done this in a little bit, but I'm gonna have a little bit of a whiteboard talk on this, that we can reference this and just kind of have a visual. I'm not making the PDFs. I don't think I'm gonna do that any longer. It seems like that was I don't know, folks just sort of ended up with a lot of printouts, and I think it's best to kind of just work with the video, just have a visual aid, that kind of perspective on it. All right, so I'm gonna have to use the mouse here. Things are not working as expected, but yeah, so coming up with kind of a string of tones, and let's see how that all just sits as we work through it. So we have these 3 notes, C, E, and G, and we're just limiting ourselves to 1 note per string, and moving across, really for the purpose of visualizing and learning triads. But you might also do this to maybe use a certain note from one group and play a note from another group, and I'll give you an example of that here in just a moment. So create these little strings of tones. Probably you shouldn't use the word strings of tones because we're talking about strings so much, but you kind of get like a little bit of a path, going. So, right. So if we play that, and then maybe we'll play a little bit of the green tones as well. Okay. Right, so then you can move back and forth between each. So you maybe play a few notes here and then play a few notes up here, right? So then move up to the other grouping. So that's a nice kind of way to isolate. So is it take, okay, one note per string, kind of isolate things, and then just kind of branch out from there as we go. So, and when we do this, we have a 3-note triad, right? Triad is 3 notes. And so we're only going to have 3 of these shapes. So it's sort of a limited number of things to learn as well. And then we can just kind of jump from one to the next. So it's a little bit of perspective that may be helpful here. Right, so again, starting on string 6, starting on so that was string 6 with E, and then you end up on string 1, so you're kind of moving over. Okay, and then start on the root here, ending up on the 5th, and starting on the 5th, ending on the 3rd. Okay. And then, of course, we can apply these triads to chord progressions, improvise with them. Tomorrow we'll be talking about, or we'll be working on the improv topics. So maybe we'll have a chance to look at that. So let's do a little more playing here, and try to work in some triads into this as well. And if all goes well, I'll be setting up see more of a Latin feel here. Try that. And let's go a little slower, see if we can. Just got to listen for some of these triads and things as we kind of go through here. So not necessarily playing those exact notes from the C major triad, but I did use the C major triad at certain moments. But you can use, and maybe this will be a good topic for tomorrow. But you can play all sorts of different types of triads on a particular chord sound. So let's say you have a C major 7. Two chords that kind of jump to mind right from the beginning here are the C major triad and E minor triad. So those are two things that you could work in between. So knowing some of these different shapes and things is definitely going to be very beneficial, for that effort. So now, what really great triad to start out with, and I've talked about this a little bit in some videos, but to start out with the augmented triad, what happens is you get this kind of symmetrical sort of thing. So it sort of divides the octave into three evenly. So so let's check out a little bit of what that looks like. So we play with this a little bit. Okay. All right. So if we say take these notes here, and it's interesting how these shapes end up looking for us. So if you're checking this out on the podcast, you could try writing this out on Guitar Neck, or even if you are watching the video, or just kind of playing it over the fingerboard and noticing kind of that symmetry. Now the guitar in standard tuning it's not a uniform tuning, so it sort of looks a little distorted. But there's an augmented triad. So C augmented, we're starting on the G sharp there. Right? And when we look at the different inversions of that, when you're looking at the major triad or the minor triad or even the diminished triad, you don't have a uniform, or you don't have the same shape every time, right? Because you have different intervals. So the augmented triad has the same group of intervals, right? So if we start on the C here on string 6, kind of get that same shape there. Okay. Right. And then also if we start on the E, and notice that we've only changed one note. We changed the G to a G sharp, right? And then we get this augmented triad. So that's a nice way to get at some of these other triads as well. And there's a talk by Pat Martino about this sort of phenomenon as well, which I believe is on YouTube. Right, so we start there. We get kind of a similar sort of thing as well. All right, so so far just kind of major triads there and augmented triads. Some really good places to play augmented triads. You can play those, let's say, on some of those secondary dominants, especially the ones that go to the minor parts of the key, like going from A7 to D minor. So that's a good location for that. And then, but you could also really use it for the major as well. All right, so let's see if we can find a nice groove here for another tune. I thought maybe I'd play, excuse me, Solar. So I think I got this one set up. It should work out for us, hopefully. So we'll do a little playing, and maybe I'll try to focus a little bit on the on some of the triads and things. A little bit up, not too much. Medium, a little bit faster, at least, than what we did before. And hopefully my guitar is coming through okay for you. I forgot to turn it up here a minute ago. All right, but let's do maybe a little playing here to take a little breather on what we did. Okay, so working there quite a bit with triads and moving things around and experimenting a little bit there with moving outside some of the changes. And so triads are really good for that. They're really good for playing something very inside, playing something a little outside. And one thing that I think is going on there is that the triad is just kind of such a pillar of our maybe training or experience just as listeners from young age. Especially major triad, it sounds bright, it sounds stable. So playing that, it kind of gives the opportunity for the ear to hear something recognizable, but you're putting the triad into some area that really kind of doesn't really make direct sense with what's going on currently in the harmony. So it's sort of an interesting phenomenon, I think. Maybe we'll spend a little more time thinking about that tomorrow. We'll be talking about improv topics. We kind of got one shifted over by one day this week somehow, and I'll see if maybe I can get on Saturday as well, just kind of make up for that. But everybody had a really good time with this talk, and thanks for your membership. Thanks for your support. Really appreciate it. And then those of you that are checking this out on the podcast, I hope you enjoy this as well. And if you're interested in joining, you have the benefit of having the visual information as well. So check that out at fretprince.com or you could check that website as well. But you can go directly to youtube.com/fretprince as well. But everybody, thanks again and have a great practice session. I'll see you in the